Hello YouTube and welcome to lesson 14th of the Adobe Premiere Pro tutorial series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as lesson 14 as of now, and then we are going to look at Premiere settings now and what it stands for. So when we were editing the video, what we were doing is we were choosing the default SD video format. So we're going to look at more of the theoretical aspects of the Premiere Pro right here in this lesson. So what I'm going to do is when I close the window, so if I were to, let's say, create new project, what it asked me is, it asked me for a new project just like this. And we did not really go on to the details of what these all meant. So we're going to take a look at that in this lesson right here. So on the name section, I, of course, changed this. So this is going to be my detail setting lesson. Setting lesson is like this, and then the location is where I browse in and save my video. Usually it should be the folder where your images, soundtrack and videos are located. So this is something we went over onto the first lesson right here. Over here on the video rendering and playback, you can see that the renderer can be set to Mercury playback engine GPU acceleration or software only. So if you don't have a graphic card, you might not see this option. And if you have a graphic card, what you can do is you can use the GPU acceleration so that your editing is much more smoother. On the video section, you can see that you can either you can either choose the time code, which is my preferred format and the default format, or you can choose the feet of frames according to the traditional cinema, which we usually don't use it these days, or frames as well. And audio also can be displayed as an audio samples, that is the frame rate for the audio, or the millisecond format. Usually I want to leave them in default as well. In the capture section, usually if you are recording from an SDB tape or a DV tape, then you can choose the capture format accordingly. Usually we do not use the SDB format anymore, but mostly in Asian countries they are still used and preferred by many of the wedding videographers, just like that. So over here you can see that there's something called scratch disk. And this is where all the temporary files actually go when I press enter or when I render the videos. And usually what I want to do is I want to choose the same as project. So if I were to go on to my, let's go to TutorTube right here, my first edit just there, you can see that there are auto saves of the project. So if I were to go to Adobe Premiere auto save, you can see that the auto save is all saved here. And the Premiere Pro preview files are all saved here. So this is what the Premiere Pro actually does. It saves all the temporary files over there. So if I were to delete, let it go. Okay, if I were to delete this and this, then it actually saves some space. So I haven't deleted this from my first lesson actually. And you can see that it is taking up 1.34 gigabytes of space, which is a lot. And if I want to save the space, I can simply delete these out, and the other files are actually generated, because the files we actually need are these and not these two folders right here. They're just temporary. So autosave file is actually necessary, and if your files get corrupted, then you want to check out this folder in order to access the old edited files. So anyways, I can actually browse and choose individual folder in order to save my temporary files. And what I usually want to do is save it in the same folder so that it's easy to manage. So once I press OK, you can see that you can actually get the project window right here. So now in the project setting right here, I can right click, go on to new item. And once we were talking about this option right here. So if I were going on to the setting or tracks, then I can actually manually select more of the settings right here. So what we actually see here are the presets of the type of file we want to edit. So if I shot from an SLR camera, then we shoot a digital SLR camera. So let us just look at on how these things actually work and what are the differences of this. Most of them are quite similar. So Premiere Pro supports a lot of format right here, unlike other professional video editing software, so it's easy for you. So it can be used both by professionals and starters. So if I were to go on to DSLR camera setting right here, you can see that there is a 1080p, that's the resolution of the video, and 24, that is the frame rate of the video. So usually 24 is the standard for cinema halls films, 25 is for PAL, and 30 is for NTSC. And if you were to see it, the exact frame rate, that is the number of frames per second in a video. So this is usually the standard option for film, which many filmmakers use. So if you were to go in here, you can see that the editing mode is DSLR. This is just the name for it. So what we actually have to look at is the time base. So this is 23.976. So if you choose a 24 frames sequence setting and your actual video is 30, it might drop a frames a little. And if you were to choose a 30 frame per second sequence and your original video is 24 frames per second, then it does not work either. So what we have to do is choose the exact setting, and this is something we have to be careful while shooting the video itself. So I'm going to go over to this one, and you can see that there's a time base of 23.976, which is the exact frame rate. 25 is 25 and 30 is 30 frames per second. The frame size over here is the resolution of the video, that is 920 by 1080 dots over the entire screen, which is the resolution of this video right here. You can also go to 4K, which is double the amount of this, and 480p is basically the standard DVD version, so it's 640 by 480 only. This is the television standard. And this is actually 50 frames per second. If you can see, this is much more smoother, and this is 60. So this is a PAL video, and this is NTSC. So if you were to go to 720p, it's much lower resolution, and this is the standard we use most. So like I said, it depends on what video format you're actually using. So the pixel aspect ratio is the size of the pixel. Usually the pixel size which we have in the monitor is square, but in the old videos, the pixels actually has to be stretched, because nowadays we use the widescreen video right here. So in the olden days, the monitors were square. So if you were to render out the video in this resolution, what you have to do is you have to stretch out the horizontal pixel right here so that it fits the screen, the widescreen video. So audio settings is the number of samples that it takes per second. So 48,000 might seem a lot, but it's not very much. We can go up to 96,000 as well. Just know that this is like a resolution for the audio. So if you have a number of the more the number of audio settings, audio samples, the better the quality of the audio. So total video tracks is 3. We can increase or decrease the tracks as we want. So that our type of audio is stereo over here. I can increase it to 5.1 or even 7.1 if I want to. So these are the options provided onto the video clip right here. And this has to be based on the original video format, as I have been saying. So if you want to custom edit your video format setting for the sequence, you can go over to settings right here. You can change any editing mode just like that. So let's say, for example, I'm going to say choose SDV 1080p, and you can choose the time base as you want. So, or I can go to ABC SD. You can see that I can choose the frame rate, and everyone, let me just choose custom so that I can choose any frame rate I want. So I can choose from 10 to 60. So that's the range provided. Usually for animations, we use 12 or less than 10 for 2D animations itself. Usually we want to stick onto these frame rates for high type of video. So this is also good for stop motion actually. So I can choose 60 frames per here as well. I can define my frame size according to what I have. So let's say I can add in any number of pixels right here. Let's say if I want an 800 by 800 pixels just like that, I can also create it just like that. So if I were to do that, you can see that the vertical, it actually arranges a pixel ratio. And 1.3 is the pixel height to width ratio of the video itself. So square pixel is totally square, it's 1 by 1 square pixels, and 1.3 is the anamorphic widescreen type of pixel. So we even have 2 and so forth. So 2 is like that means the width of the pixel is twice the height of the pixel, so it's quite stretched out. You can see that there's field over here. So if you use progressive scan, which is the standard for these days, you don't really have to mess up with these upper fill or lower fill, and these are actually for analog televisions in the olden days. So the display format can be frames or timecode. As you with sample rate audio, I can increase up to 96,000 as well. I can change it to milliseconds and so forth, and then this is how it works actually. So I can just go to tracks as well. I can add in the audio tracks if I want, so I can change it to 5.1. I guess the 7.1 option is not available here yet. In this, I can actually add in the number of layers for the audio just like that, and increase the video layers even up to 99. So if I were to press that, you can see that the custom sequence is actually made, and you can see that there's a 4:3 ratio onto the video right here. So you'll have to experiment with this, and you might be wondering how you're supposed to know what the video format is. So what you're just supposed to do is see the video. I'm going to go over to the lesson onto my video. So usually what we do in editing video is we choose the same format of the video that we edit, or we can use the mixed media. In this case, 3 of them are 29.97 and one of them is 25. Usually in this case, we stick to the higher option. For example, in Candle, on Candle, my Candle video, if I go to properties, you can see that the resolution is 1280 by 720. And if I were to go to San Francisco and go to properties, it is 920 by 1080. So I choose the higher option by default. So if I were to create a sequence for this, so let's just go to properties. You can see that the file type is MPG movie. Image file size is 1920 by 1080. Frame rate is 29.99, which is unusual actually, because it's 9.7. Source audio format is 44,100 only. Usually it's 48,000. Its project audio file is 32-bit floating point stereo audio format, and the pixel aspect ratio is 1.0. So usually if I want to, I'm gonna add this as a base of my video editing right here. So I can just right click over there onto the new item sequence, and I can manually change everything that I want. But usually Premiere gives me an easier option. So what I can simply do is I can drag this onto my new layer, and what it does is it creates a new sequence for me just like that, without me having to manually change it. So you can see if this in the sequence settings that it is actually exactly how the video is placed. So I can right click, go to new item, go to sequence, just press OK onto anything, and I want to drag the video. So if I were to drag the morning, you can see that it asks me if I want to change the sequence settings or keep the existing settings. If I choose the keep existing settings, it will use the sequence settings as it is. If I choose the change sequence settings, you can see that it actually changes the sequence to match the video I just dragged in. So if I were to drag this in, it actually asks me to change the video right here. So if I were to change it, it does not ask me the video change again, but overall it asks me if I want to change the sequence in order to match this, match it with the first video I drag it onto the timeline. So this has been a theoretical lesson for you guys in order to start editing. So hope you guys learned something as always, and as always, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.